Hi. I wanted to go to my cousin Parik's wedding in Ireland. My relatives were coming from all over the US and Europe, and I hadn't seen some relatives in like 30 years, and I really wanted to see them. And an Irish wedding is really fun. The obstacle, though, is my fear of flying. So, out of necessity, I went to a therapist to help me deal with my fears and get on a plane. And she suggested that I watch YouTube videos of planes taking off and landing. And this is called an exposure therapy. And the idea with exposure therapy is that you face your fear enough so that you get over it. Another exposure she suggested is walking across bridges, because I'm afraid of bridges too. I'm afraid of everything except arachnophobia. She said, and one fear helps with another. So that's why the walking across bridges helps. And my fear with walking across bridges is I'm afraid I'm going to jump in or somehow end up in the water. And she kept telling me my fear was irrational. But I kept walking across the East Falls Bridge every day, white knuckling it, and I still was afraid. And then one day I realized that the railing came up to my chest. And in my mind, I imagined that I would just go into the water like an Olympic diver or like a rocket into the water. And I realized with this railing, I'd have to hoist my leg up over the railing, pull myself up. It would take forever. I'd be panting and sweating. And then some good Samaritan would come and knock me down military style, and I'd never end up in the water. So I understood in that moment what my therapist meant by irrational fear. So that night, I booked my flight to Ireland on some big old Airbus. And it was one of those planes where there are four seats in the middle, two on one side and three on the other. And I booked my flight in the middle four seats at the end seat. So my fear with flying is that I'm afraid that I'm going to feel claustrophobic and lose control and run mad and pull toupees off of heads and knock glasses of wine over. And the co-pilot will have to hold me down, and they'll land in Iceland and I'll end up in a cold jail. So I figured if I have all this space around me, I'll be okay. I won't feel claustrophobic. So the day comes to board the flight, and I sit in my seat, and this woman comes up to me and she's like, "I want to change seats with you." Her husband and her daughter were sitting next to me, and she wasn't taking no for an answer. So I'm like, "Look, let me just stay here for takeoff and we'll change seats when we're up in the air." So I sit down, and I think she must have gagged her husband and daughter at home because they talked to me nonstop. In fact, her daughter was afraid of flying, and I was comforting her. And then in between that, her husband told me his whole life story. But I was totally fear-free, and I was feeling good. And then it came time to go back to my seat. And my fear met me at my seat. I was a few rows back in one of those two-seat rows next to the window. And the seat was really small. It was big enough for a leprechaun. And I just felt totally claustrophobic. And I'm sitting next to this sort of semi-taciturn, fierce looking, scary European lady. And I'm like, "Oh my God, how am I going to get through this?" And then I thought to myself, if I ran mad, she's the type of lady who would be like, "Settle down, bitch." And all the gravitas of her great uncle Vlad the Impaler would just stop me in my tracks. And I realized that I inventing this mother of a backstory helped me stop my fears. And I was able to enjoy the flight and watch the movie. And I landed in Ireland, and it was beautiful. I was so happy. But a couple of times during the flight, the husband came over to tell me some of his 9 to 5 shenanigans stories. I don't think Vlad the Impaler's descendant liked it very much. Thank you.